Hola, and welcome to Box Box, the F1 podcast that's heavy on opinion and light on credentials. With me, Josh, and my boys, Matt and Jack.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Episode 1, boys.
That's a great intro.
Thank you.
That was a great intro.
Thank you.
I wasn't expecting that. I thought it was going to be more simple.
Well, multilingual, my friend.
Multilingual.
Yeah. Well,
Hola, friends.
yeah, in for the long haul now. So,
Indeed.
episode 1, here we go. We're going to start the year and the season with our predictions, both drivers, constructors, and our hopes for the season, and then maybe a couple of little spicy kind of predictions for what we've got coming up. So I think if we start with our driver predictions, we've gone top 4 and bottom 4. So I think it'll be a good idea if we go top 4 first and just go line by line. I'll tell you my first, and then you guys can go first as well, and then we can go all of our firsts, all of our seconds, all our thirds. Yeah, happy?
Yep.
Okay.
We drivers first.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So work from top of page. I mean, I think the first one could be quite easy. So I've gone Verstappen first.
Okay, I went Magnussen, but...
Okay. Opposite there, I like it. Yeah. So I've gone Verstappen.
Yeah, Max.
Yeah, I'm also Verstappen. It's a bit silly not to really at this stage, isn't it?
Sadly, that is the case that we're going to be at this moment in time. I'm probably not going to change that prediction throughout the entire season, but we can hope, can't we?
Yeah, we'll see. Halfway through, let's have another one.
Yeah. I think that's a good shout. I think halfway through the season, then at the end of it, we can look back at how stupid our predictions have been and have a laugh at it. But yeah, Verstappen's an easy one. I mean, yeah, look, let's not say anything more about it because it's not going to change. So second, I've gone Hamilton.
So have I.
Yeah. So second Hamilton. Who have you gone for?
I have gone for Alonso.
Alonso.
That's mainly to do with who I want to be second more than.
Okay, so you're going with your heart, not your head.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Max Verstappen in front is you're silly not to choose him.
Yeah.
But after that, it'd be nice to see someone other than Hamilton around 2, 3, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I like a bit of drama. I can't wait to halfway through the season to say you're silly when he's in 8th. But
I'm looking forward to your constructors list.
Yeah, so am I.
Because off camera, you were saying how it doesn't really correlate your driver's list to your constructors list, so that'd be quite interesting. Because to have an Aston in the top 3.
Well, no,
of drivers.
Second.
Top
Sorry,
second.
All right, the second.
Yeah.
In
Okay.
the
Look. Strong. I like it. Third, I've gone Leclerc. I think it's going to be close with Hamilton, but I think Leclerc is going to come third.
Yeah, no, I've gone Checo.
Okay.
I have a hope that the Ferrari pit wall, and we'll come on to this when our kind of looking wider at our hopes for the season, but the idea that Ferrari can improve on the track side excites me, because the last 2 seasons they've been absolutely trash.
What, the circus? The Ferrari circus?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I've got PTSD from Monaco still.
No, stay out.
I'm sure they're doing it just for comedy factor, so everyone talks about them. As if the brand is big enough, of course. But
So I hope that, to be honest, it will be Charles third. But I do think that at this moment in time, I have to say Checo in a Red Bull.
Okay.
I have gone for Leclerc as well. I haven't gone for Perez because I don't think he'll be doing the whole season. So I think to be third in the drivers is
what a prediction.
Yeah. That might feature in our last prediction of this episode.
Could do.
Yeah. So we'll segue that later. Okay. So that's top 3. So my 4th was Perez. I think he's going to come above George and Sainz just because of the car that's under him. I don't think he's going to make it all the way through the season, like you've said, but I think he's going to make it far enough along to come 4th.
Nice.
So, yeah, I mean, we've seen Checo under pressure isn't the kind of Checo that we see when he's not under pressure, is he?
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah.
So no, that makes sense. I've just swapped it around from what you've got. So I've got Leclerc
Okay.
in fourth. As I say, hopefully it's third, and Ferrari are stronger. Because talk kind of more widely. The Ferrari that we saw last season is quick over one lap. It's fire over one lap.
Yeah.
And going back to Monaco again, that lap of Leclerc's, which he had to finish early because of Checo's dodgy spin. We won't go into conspiracy theories, but the dodgy spin.
Yeah.
He was lightning over Max's pace in the run before. So I do think Leclerc is in my top 2 of fastest on the grid. So
over one lap, yeah.
Over one lap, yeah.
Yeah, if he doesn't fuck it into a wall.
Yeah. Yeah. He's pushing the limits.
Yeah.
So yeah, at the moment, Checo third and Leclerc fourth.
Okay.
So following on from my Perez not doing the whole season, I'm confident that Ricciardo is going to be doing good in the RB to then go into the Red Bull midway through season.
You think Perez is going early?
Or are you saying?
I just think he's going to
be strong.
Yeah, I think he's going to get enough points in the RB to follow it on with the Red Bull.
Right.
Okay.
That's a consistent top 10 for an RB.
And beat a Ferrari, a Mercedes.
Oh, I think Ferrari tactics going to fuck it.
Okay. Yeah.
There's.
I don't make you wrong there. I don't make you wrong.
My only question about your Ferrari suggestions is Leclerc over Sainz. That's an interesting one.
I think so.
I think it's quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's.
Sainz got their only race win last season.
He did. Yeah. But I just think
he's got something to prove.
Is that Singapore?
Yeah, it was.
That dropping back to give.
Yeah.
Lando the DRS.
Yeah. Because they.
I mean that was Singapore.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a bit like. I mean, it's not far off Monaco, so
yeah. I just think Leclerc will have the consistency. I don't think he'll outscore Sainz by much.
Okay.
I think they'll be close. I think they'll be nip and tuck throughout most of the season. I just think Leclerc has more than Sainz personally.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and I don't think that although he's now, he's a Ferrari driver now, and he's been performing, pretty well, reasonably well at Ferrari. Have we really seen Carlos in a team like Ferrari leave? Like, he's got one season left.
Yeah.
And he's essentially bidding for his next seat, whether he'll have to actually, because he's just said in the last few days, leading up to Bahrain, that he wants to go to a team with the best prospect of giving a championship-winning car. Mm-hmm. Well, if we're looking, kind of pre-regulation change, it's a Red Bull.
Yeah.
So he's essentially going up against multiple drivers, including Danny Rick, for the Red Bull seat, and he has to. This will come down to the whole season. Red Bull will look at him throughout the season, and his job's on the line. I don't know if I've watched Carlos in that position previously.
Yeah.
No, under the pressure, I suppose, as well. I mean, you've got Mercedes as well, so it's more than just Red Bull as a top seat available, I guess.
Yeah.
Because you've got Mercedes too.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think we could do a whole episode on our predictions for silly season. So I think we'll put ourselves back from that tangent because we could talk for about an hour and a half on that.
Yeah.
So that's our top 4. Fairly similar, to be fair, not surprising. I think the bottom 4 will probably be a bit more interesting. Might have,
I feel like the bottom names. 4 are going to be very similar.
They might be. I really struggle with it. So let's go on to that then. So we'll start with 17th and then go 20th last, yeah?
Yep.
Okay, so 17th, I got Zhou Guanyu.
I got Logan Sargent.
17th?
Yeah.
I also have Logan Sargent.
Okay.
17th,
Yeah, I mean, I have
the
reasonably
Williams,
high hopes for the Williams, but Sargent isn't Albon.
Yeah.
So, we had a similar situation with George Russell.
Yeah.
In that he was outperforming the car. Alex Albon isn't probably far off from outperforming that Williams.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, Logan Sargent, I don't have that much faith in.
I think you have to be when a car is, I mean, not that good, but when a car is, it's got the possibility to be good, you've got to be an awful driver. And I don't think he's great, but I think if there's points to be had, I think he will take them.
Yeah, look, don't get me wrong. I don't disagree with you because Sargent might feature in my list a bit lower down. So I'm not saying he's going to do better.
Yeah, you just don't think he's going to get a point.
I think he might. I think he might get a solitary point. But okay, so that's 17th. 18th, I've gone Hulkenberg.
I've gone Joe.
Mm-hmm.
I've gone Joe as well.
Okay.
Oh, we're aligned.
I reckon we're going to have exactly the same. It depends on which way round the last two, I suppose.
Yeah. Okay. So you're going Joe, gone you. Okay. Do you think? I'll ask questions after. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
So 19th, I've gone Sargent.
I've gone Hulk.
Okay.
I've gone Magnussen.
Okay.
We are different.
Okay. Interesting. Let's go 20, then we can talk about the 4 then. So I've gone Magnussen 20th.
I've gone Magnussen.
I've gone Hulkenberg. Yeah.
Okay. So
did you had Hulkenberg nowhere in that?
yeah, I've got Hulkenberg in 18th.
Oh, 18th. Sorry. Yeah.
So I've got Hulkenberg in 18th. So I think he's gonna outscore Magnussen. I don't think Magnussen will get any points in a Haas this year.
Right.
I think Sargent will pick up a point. I think Hulkenberg might get a few. And Joe Guanyu, I think, will be outscored by Valtteri in the stake or kick or salve or whatever you want to call it.
Salve,
Yeah. Okay. So Haas wise, Magnussen and Hulkenberg, you've both got them in your bottom 4.
Yeah. Main reason being I've gone Hulk ahead of Magnussen is qualifying, and that's mostly off feeling more than.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So last season the Haas over one lap was not too bad.
Yeah.
Race runs, tyres in races are horrendous.
Just disintegrated.
Just
melted off the car.
Yeah, melting, absolutely melting. So I think a lot for Haas, if it's more balanced this year, it's not more balanced this year. I think the qualifying it'll be whoever qualifies ahead will likely be, they'll just be following each other because they look so poor the race runs, the qualifying runs show a second and a half behind the Red Bull.
Yeah.
Is their simulations from official F1 at the moment. So I think that whoever qualifies ahead will likely stay ahead.
Yeah, their team principal, can't remember his name off the top of my head, but I'm quite sure he came out at their car launch and said, yeah, we're going to be the slowest car on the grid at launch.
At least set expectations.
So, yeah.
If you set them low, then you can only outperform your expectations. Can't you?
Yeah. I think we're all in agreement then, aren't we, that Haas is going to be slow, so Magnussen and Hulkenberg are going to struggle. Sargent is, Sargent is going to do Sargent things. I don't know, good is it? Okay.
It's just a screensaver, I guess.
Yeah. Okay.
Blue technical issues.
Yeah.
Ahead.
Ding dong.
Ding dong.
So yeah, Sargent. I think he's not in the greatest car, but he's also not the most consistent. So I think that's fair. And Joe Guanyu, not the fastest car, a bit of a Sargent in my opinion.
Yeah.
So okay, it's been quite vanilla so far, really, hasn't it? We've kind of had the same people in different order for top 4 and bottom 4, but I suppose it's kind of, it is what it is, isn't it?
Yeah, I reckon the next one could be interesting.
Yeah, okay.
Do you want to, as we talk about drivers and we're going to go to constructors, do you want to jump to the bottom, the last point on this?
Yeah, okay, yeah. I think
because you kind of segued into what your prediction would be there.
We've pretty much covered it, haven't we? So,
I think we differ though.
Oh, maybe we do. Look, so are most likely to be sacked.
Yes.
And lose their seat in 2024, which is our kind of crazy prediction. And it's not so crazy because I've gone Perez is most likely to be sacked and lose their seat.
So have I. And I thought you went Sargent, which is...
Yeah, so I've got 2 written down, which is Perez and Sargent. So I'll match you both. Yeah. I tried to think, when we had sacked / lose seat. I tried to think of a team boss that might go, but I think there's quite a few new ones in for this season, or at least last season to this season. So I think they're all pretty cemented in, but I can see Perez. He's the most likely to go if he doesn't perform how they want him to.
Mm-hmm. And they could just
they've given him a season already.
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be someone losing a seat in Formula One necessarily.
And having a payout.
For talking just drivers, I think Sargent could be a good shout to lose his seat. But I'm not sure that James Vowles is that much of an assassin.
Yeah, I don't see it.
I think it will completely depend on how well Albon does. If Albon's like absolutely flying and finishing top 10 every race, and Sargent's down in last, then they've got no choice but to get rid of him.
I think that. Did you kind of allude to James Vowles being a bit soft?
Yeah, I don't. I think that's unfair. I really rate James Vowles. I think he's a brilliant team principal. Clear, every interview that I've seen with other people talking about him, they say he's the most intelligent bloke I've ever met, the most intelligent bloke I've ever worked with in F1. That's saying something because there's a lot of smart people that work in F1. His people skills are apparently very good, but it's just something. He doesn't have that. I don't think he's got that killer instinct like a Horner or Marco or.
He's a technical. He's a technical. Guy.
Yeah.
And as anyone who's watched, this season's Drive to Survive, which has just come out. You see that he is all about data.
Yeah.
He's not. He hasn't come from leadership per se. He's come from engineering. However, I don't think that from listening to James Vowles talk at the end of last season through the winter occasionally when he's when they announced that they were going to keep Sargent for 2024, he talks like a leader within a normal progressive business, i.e. we are looking to enable our staff or enable our team members and colleagues to grow and do these things and be comfortable with making mistakes and all these kind of things that you hear in business and not in the cutthroat world of elite sport. So I don't see, even if he performs that badly, I don't think he's getting sacked.
Yeah, because I suppose he's looking at building the car and improving the car over 2, 3, 4 seasons. He's not looking at the car to be a contender now, so the driver doesn't have to be either, I suppose.
I mean
that's what they're looking at.
He could look at that, but it'd be in fucking fairyland because that car is not going to be a championship contender for at least a decade.
I mean, you've got the rule changes, haven't you? So,
anything's
possible.
I'm being unfair.
He's got good pedigree.
I'm being unfair. I really like James Vowles. I think he's going to do really good things at Williams, but I don't think he's got the killer instinct to sack Sargent halfway through the season unless it's like abysmal
and not fully his choice. He's going to have pressure. If Albon's going 8th, 7th or whatever, and then you've got him coming in at 19th.
It almost is kind of somewhat reminiscent that scenario of Max and Checo. In that you have Max in P1 and Checo finishing 8th, 9th, 10th, or multiple races last year, and that there's a lot of questions around Checo, you're not within a second of Max,
or it's almost a little bit like Max and Albon. Whereas Albon is now the Max in the situation. He's been maxed and now he's doing a max. You mentioned team principles, kind of being fairly cemented in. I'm going to go with a rogue shout here that if Ferrari season explodes, I think Fred is probably the least cemented team principal on the grid.
I don't think that'd necessarily be rogue.
But
I don't think he's going.
I don't think he's unless they absolutely implode this year, because Ferrari are Ferrari and they have to be
implode being what constructors.
Just another year of being the travelling circus that Ferrari were in 22.
It must be pretty frustrating working the factory for Ferrari and building what we've all agreed is an ultra quick car, especially for one lap. Okay, the race pace at some circuits was they were getting overtaken at the points, and I was like, this does not align with qualifying whatsoever. But it must be so frustrating when the strategy decisions that we've seen over the last 2 years have been pretty amateur. In all honesty, I mean, I don't think I'm being too harsh by saying it's been pretty amateur either.
Stay out.
Stay out. Stay out. Oh God.
Look, I think that's. I mean, watching a Drive Survive episode about Fred coming in, he's clearly not he's not of the Ferrari mould. A lot of people were saying, he's not even Italian. He doesn't speak Italian. He's not serious. I really like Fred, by the way, because I think he's a really funny bloke.
I think he's great.
So not Ferrari. Which I think makes him more likable.
100%. But I think it also makes him more vulnerable.
Oh yeah.
He's not one to toe the party line.
No, which makes him an easy scapegoat. So if their season implodes, I think he's one to go. But I hope it doesn't, and I don't think it will happen. But if any team principal are going to go halfway through the season,
Yeah.
it's going to be him. Maybe Alpine, but that's a whole nother conversation. Okay, cool. So that was our top 4, bottom 4, and most likely to be sacked. So let's move on to constructors. So we're going all 10, and let's start 10 and go down to 1.
Yep.
So I think
This is going to be a shocker for 10, isn't it?
I think we're going to get quite a few similar results here. So 10, I've gone Haas.
Yep, indeed.
Yeah, I don't think there's much more we need to say about that.
No.
So, I
we
mean, both the
discussed that.
drivers we're saying 0 points essentially. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Now I think I might be rogue here. I don't think this will match you guys. So
Okay.
9th, I've gone Williams.
Wow.
Oh,
Okay.
that is a horrific
Yeah.
shout. Stop the cap.
Horrific. Oh, I can't wait for you to eat your words halfway
Was
through the
it-
season.
You think that in the new era of Williams,
Mm-hmm.
last year was 7th, and you think they're going to go backwards? Or you
thing
either
is-
think the Williams are going backwards, or that the Sauber, etc. of the worlds, the bottom pack of the midfield are going forwards? Which
Look,
one is it?
Look, in my mind, I'm keeping the door open for Albon leaving mid-season.
Okay.
I think there's a possibility that he could move to a better drive. I think he will move on from Williams to either Red Bull or Mercedes. And that's
Which driver program is he still in? Red Bulls?
I think he's still in Red Bulls.
Yeah, it was a funny deal that they had to do to get him.
Yeah, because obviously it's mostly
Williams.
Mercedes drivers at Williams, isn't it? But yeah. Look, that's my 9th.
The only thing I would say on that is, if Albon does leave,
Mm-hmm.
I only foresee a swap with Checo, and I think Checo, if he was, in that car, then it still wouldn't drop. He'd perform as probably as well as.
Yeah. Look, it was close for me between 8 and 9. This is
Okay.
one of the ones I'm not that happy on, but I'm going to stick with it because it would be boring if we all picked the same when in half through the season we've got
And to
no
be
banner.
fair, I say that Williams at 9th is a bad shout,
Yeah.
but mine's not too far behind with Williams.
Okay,
so
go on.
I'll let Matt go with his
So,
9th first.
So 9th on Sauber.
Okay.
Okay.
I
Three
don't.
different teams.
I don't think that the new livery and names in the name title will kind of give me any more confidence in the project going on there.
What about a mullet and a tash?
Well, if it was our hopes for the constructors,
Yeah.
then Bottas would be up there with maybe P1.
He would get getting weekly podiums.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny. I was watching. I don't know what it was. It was a 2021 season. Was on Sky the other day, and I was watching. And it was the end of the race. I just don't know. It just finished, and they were interviewing Bottas, and just the way he was standing when he was at Mercedes. Every time he was interviewed after the race, wherever he came, he was always uptight,
Uncomfortable.
Yeah.
uncomfortable. And then you watch him now that he's embraced his mullet and
Yeah.
all this, and
Living his best
he's-
life.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah, I've gone Sauber, and I hope for Bottas' sake that it's not ninth.
Now, I'm going to ask you a question, Jack.
Yes.
I think I might be right. Have you gone for Alpine?
I have, yeah.
Wow, okay. You think they're going to be having a bad time this year?
I don't necessarily know whether I'm going, the drivers are going to perform badly,
Or
the
crash?
team's going to be bad, or they're just going to crash into each other and explode.
Likely.
But I think it's likely that there's going to be a mixture of all three,
Yeah.
and they just crash and burn
Yeah.
to 9th.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's strong shout. I mean, that's yeah. Okay. I can see it happening.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah. I don't think it's unlikely. I think it's probably more likely than Williams in 9th. So okay, cool. So 8th, I've gone Sauber, kick, steak, green. So
I mean, I talk about the livery. It's actually quite nice.
I think it's probably it's just nice to see something different.
Yeah.
You
Did
know.
you see the F1? The FIA technical director used to be at one of the teams. I can't remember what his name was. He was being asked about it by Ted, I think, and he was saying if all the teams started doing it, we might have a word.
Really?
Otherwise, one team's okay.
Okay.
Oh god.
Yeah. Yeah. It does look like you've kind of given it to a school child to design a kind of livery.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, we
But-
thought with Force India that the the pink and
Yeah. The BWT
and
livery.
then
Yeah.
Alpine, But this is even more out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, as you say, it's nice to see something
Yeah. Yeah.
a bit different.
Yeah.
I've gone Alpine.
Okay.
Nate. As you say, I mean, I don't see that rivalry and that animosity between those two getting better over time.
No,
That gets worse.
that's like deep root.
Yeah, this is
Hatred, isn't it?
decades. I say decades; they're not that old. This is almost decades long, multiple decades long, of fighting each other, not really liking each other. I quite like Pierre Gasly, and I think that he's a pretty good operator around the team. It seems. Ocon is a I think off track. He speaks and everything. He's great. I think he's got a little switch,
He's an assassin.
isn't he? He's
He
got
is an
a
assassin.
switch which he's just like, I'm going to murder you now.
Yeah.
Well, can you think of any other driver that's had like issues with that
Everyone.
many? Yeah,
Every
So you
teammate.
got, I was gonna say Alonso. Alonso doesn't get angry at anyone,
No.
and then there was no love lost there.
No.
Verstappen, I'm sure you remember back then with Verstappen and Ocon,
Yeah.
nice little fisty fight.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, because Fernando, now he's kind of in the nicest way possible. He's too old to care about
Yeah.
that kind of petty.
He's above it.
He's so above it. Yeah,
He's above it.
to actually have that with Fernando, like you've got to go out looking for it almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So-
100%. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So you've gone Alpine.
I have gone for the Williams, which saddens me because I hope they do better than 8th.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so shocked you both have
I
Williams
think-
going backwards.
Well, because I think Albon does better. I think the other teams are going to improve. I don't think they're going to necessarily go back, but I do think that Logan Sargent's just there. Yeah, he's going to get more confident in the car, which is going to go badly. Yeah, he's going to be told he needs more confidence to be
Yeah.
able to go quicker, and he's going to go quicker, and then he's going to bin it into
Yeah.
the barriers. So
Yeah.
Because we've got a lot of the first. I mean, the first half of the season is quite difficult, I think, for especially rookies because there's so many street circuits.
yeah.
I mean, Baku comes up pretty quickly in the
Yeah.
calendar, doesn't it? So,
Yeah.
ones like that, Monaco's not that far in. So, if you wanted to, if you were a Logan Sargent who is was on the cusp of getting sacked,
Yeah.
was losing a seat in the last season, you certainly would want the season the other way around,
Yeah.
wouldn't you?
Yeah.
If you're gonna have a street circuit, you really want to go. I mean, the best is probably Vegas at this point in time, but
Well, I guess is it similar layout to last year's in terms of like order of the races? Because
They're in quite a bit of a different order this year.
they are different. Okay, I
Yeah.
was gonna say because obviously De Vries went
after
yeah.
seven,
So
eight, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So 7th, I've gone Alpine. So it looks like our bottom 4 are all fairly similar. So Alpine 7th. I think, they could finish lower, but I think as long as they keep their noses clean, if the drivers keep their noses clean, I think they're going to do well. I think the car will be okay. And if I was a betting man, I wouldn't bet on Alpine 7th, but I put them 7th nonetheless. So
I'll go Williams.
Williams, okay.
I have Williams staying. I don't think the other teams. I don't think Alpine, Sauber, or Haas
Mm-hmm.
are moving above them, and I think Albon's going to outperform the car just as George Russell did when he was there. And they've also got a new steering wheel. They've got a digital steering wheel now in the Williams. I don't know if you've I was watching George Russell in that Williams, and it was just like, what in the world is this go-karting?
Well, like the analog.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a funny shape, wasn't it? It kind of
Yeah.
went
Yeah.
in like a kind of
Yeah, and then they had the
banana.
screen behind it, didn't they? They had the screen
Yeah,
behind the
but then
wheel,
they've now
yeah.
got a new one.
Okay.
Although, I mean, I read this and I haven't actually watched the onboard, so
Right, okay.
maybe we'll have to cut this part of the podcast if I'm
Yeah.
completely wrong. But
because
yeah,
I think it was Russell that even came up with that design, wasn't it? Or helped come
Oh,
up with
really?
that design for the Williams. Yeah,
really.
I believe so. I might be wrong, but
Yeah, okay.
cut that out too.
What was your intro again about? Loads of opinion and
What heavy on opinion, light on credibility.
exactly.
We're just proving ourselves
So
right.
don't take anything we say with too much truth.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for 7, I have gone Sauber.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna do worse than Williams, Alpine, or Haas. So I think they're
Yeah.
they're literally there through. Me just thinking that they're not going to do worse than the others. But they're definitely not going to do better than the ones I've got in front. So.
I think that's fair. I mean, I think that bottom four, we've all agreed that they're the bottom four.
Yeah.
I think it's quite clear.
Yeah.
It's quite clear that that's gonna.
I think as we move up, it'll be certainly more interesting.
Yeah.
In this list.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So 6th, I've gone RB, V-carb.
So have I.
Yeah.
And me too.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that's quicker than the slowest, but slower than the quickest.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
We have a very negative outlook on these cars, don't we?
Yeah.
It's not like this car's going to be fast. It's not as slow as
Yeah.
Well, I think the RB is a little bit unknown though, isn't it? Because they've gone from, being like hands off Red Bull to now being very, we could basically just see 2023 Red Bull.
Yeah.
Yeah, though I did read something. I think it was maybe Ted on Sky F1 was doing something over like a testing summary, and he was talking about the gardening leave that is put in place between Red Bull and RB.
Yeah,
because it's completely against the rules, regulations, competition law stuff. For anyone from Red Bull to take information to RB and the other way around. And apparently Red Bull have an extensive garden leave policy. Even if you leave Red Bull, he didn't say how long it was, but apparently it's very extensive. So any latest information, development, all that kind of thing, you cannot take. Yeah, well, if you take it, it's so long that it's not going to matter.
Right, okay.
However, with RB, as you say, it's basically a rebrand. The thing I find really strange about RB, and I have put them in, we've all put them the same. The thing that I find strange is that if you listen to Christian Horner, I do find that all of the other teams on the grid, they are kind of all there. I don't know about Haas, all there to, compete, and they want to do well in F1. And every year they try and do their best and try and develop a car that everyone can be proud of.
Unless you're Haas.
I think Haas at this point are just happy. Gene Haas is just happy to be in F1, which is he just wants his name, it generates more business on the other Haas brands because we're in F1. But RB, you listen to Christian Horner, it is a development team. That car, the RB is there to generate drivers or test drivers for the Red Bull seats. So I don't have the same. It just feels very strange to me that you can have 10 teams in F1. We've just had Andretti refused entry. When one of the teams, Red Bull, are openly saying, the team principal and CEO of Red Bull Racing is saying, that team is there to generate talent for us. That's all it's there for.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all of a sudden you've got 9.5 teams on the grid.
Yeah.
So,
as you say, Haas is in between. But
Yeah. Okay. I think we could probably do almost a whole episode on that of who's on the grid and who deserves to be on the grid team wise. So
let's not throw too much fire.
Yeah, let's park that for our first episode because otherwise, we're losing the listeners that we don't have. Hi, Mum.
So that was RB at 6 for all of us.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So top five. I've gone McLaren.
Oh.
What?
Take that hat off.
I know.
Take that hat off now.
He's wearing a McLaren hat and a McLaren hoodie.
Yeah.
And you've gone.
You don't deserve it.
Yeah. Look.
You've gone. This is slower than an Aston.
This is just me proving that I'm not a fanboy. Yeah. I
mean, do you watch F1?
Ouch. Yeah. At least I don't watch it on record, mate.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Look, I've put McLaren there because I think Aston they'll start the year really well, and I think they would have learnt lessons from last year where they didn't improve. They started off really well.
Don't put Stroll in the car.
Yeah. Okay, that I take that I didn't really think this through that far that Stroll's going to be having to score quite a lot of points. But I'm going to stick to my guns. McLaren, I think they're going to have an okay car at the start. I think they're going to improve. I think it's going to be close between Aston Martin and McLaren. I think they could be kind of fairly inseparable. But I think the fight for 4th and 5th will be between McLaren and Aston. So yeah, fifth McLaren.
Nice.
So I've gone Aston,
Yeah.
and what I would say on that is that if you look at the Aston before it was Aston, so if we talk about the last, I don't know, 5 years, let's just look at 5 years. The Aston, previously Force India,
Racing Point.
Racing Point, Force India.
Yeah.
They turned up in whatever season it was, 2019, whatever it was, with last year's Mercedes, right?
The pink Mercedes.
The pink Mercedes.
Yeah.
They then turn up last year with the year before, the RB19, RB18, sorry,
Yeah.
the RB18. It looks exactly the same as a Red Bull.
Yeah.
And what we found throughout the season was, Adrian Newey at testing, they said he was asked, who do you think is, maybe challenging, who you worried about? And he said Aston Martin because it's last year's. He didn't say it, but it's last year's car. It's ours from last year. And what they found throughout the season was a drop off. And does that show a lack of being able to self-develop that car throughout the season, right? Whereas I think that when you look at McLaren didn't copy a car. They changed the concept. They were late making that decision through winter. Came in with an awful car, and then brought the upgrades and developments in. So they have, don't get me wrong, it's McLaren. They are a supercar manufacturer. So I feel like I have no faith in Aston bringing upgrades because I don't feel like they have the same, maybe, internal talent that the likes of McLaren and that have.
Yeah, I think that's an astute point, and I don't have anything to defend or rebut what you've just said, other than Lawrence Stroll. I think he's just a man on a mission. I really do.
You can't throw money at everything.
Well, I mean, I think he can. I think F1's a money game, and the more money you have,
It doesn't matter unless you've got Newey.
yeah, it doesn't help when you got your son in the car. But never mind. Let's not lose all the teams just in case we can get into the paddock, because that's Haas and Aston that we've just slandered there. Okay, so I assume you've gone Aston then.
I've gone Aston.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
for all the same reasons
Yeah.
that Matt has said.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Look, I think it could go either way. I think it'll be close. Maybe I think it'll be closer than you two do. But for me, I think they're fairly interchangeable between fourth and fifth.
Okay.
Don't get me wrong. I'd love to see McLaren kind of challenge him for top three.
You're assuming that we've put McLaren fourth.
I am assuming.
By what you've just said, I've not. So
No, neither have I.
Okay, right. Let's move swiftly on
I'm
then.
interested to know who
swiftly
you
on.
put fourth.
Let's move swiftly on then. So I've put Aston Martin fourth. So I've just alluded to that anyway. So
yeah,
I think we've had that conversation. So who you put fourth?
Ferrari.
Wow.
I have a hope, as I
okay.
said, I have a hope that trackside helps, particularly Charles, because I feel like Charles got the more of a raw end of it last year. However, I would need to see evidence of that before I change my prediction.
Okay, Inspector Gale.
You don't have to convince me. I've also gone for Ferrari fourth.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, if you look at last season and the McLaren, I don't even know what to call it, transformation throughout the season,
It was mad.
and I would argue that in race conditions that the McLaren was quicker than the Ferrari in the last season. So yeah, I have more faith in McLaren than I have in Ferrari in that sense.
As a whole package, you could argue that Ferrari as a car is going to be quicker, but the drivers, the team, the strategy, I just think McLaren are like one big unit that.
Yeah.
So-
I don't make you wrong. I think you make a very good point that the strategy is very good, but also the pit stops I'm quite sure they got most of the top.
McLaren, they beat Red Bull throughout last season. I know Red Bull got it back in the end, but they did beat Red Bull and go
but
down to a silly.
They were consistent.
2.1.
They were consistently up there with the pit stops.
I mean, talking of pit stops, I assume we've all seen the Ferrari pit stop that they showed as their like.
I've been told about it. I've not seen it.
Have you not seen it? Okay, so
I don't want to. I think I'll cringe too much.
So even like Drive to Survive, for example, obviously you have from the top, the guys doing the pit stop, guys and girls doing the pit stop. Ferrari is one that they showed as their like, look how good we are. The front right got stuck.
I mean,
it got stuck and was slow by like 2 seconds going on compared to all the others. So
if you're Ferrari, why are you doing that live?
yeah,
Just record it. Just
well,
in
it was.
case.
I think it was.
There's
I
no-
think it
there's
was
no
recorded
way.
and then they've put it out.
Sorry, there's no way that they recorded that and put that out.
It's Ferrari.
They need to hire some different social media people.
Does it surprise? They need to hire a whole new team of.
Hire me.
Yeah. Well, the question for me, we talk in more kind of detail, track side about Ferrari, is I felt that when Mattia Bonotto was there, that he had a kind of a James Vowles about him, whereby he wanted to protect the team. There was question about strategy has cost you here, multiple places, and this has happened multiple times throughout the season. And he kind of took responsibility, didn't make any changes. Didn't make too many changes. I mean, the news coming out was that, there wasn't too much going on. People were just being, kind of remained in place, if you like. Whereas I think that in Red Bull or something, people have got fired or moved or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, when you're trying to compete at the top, you've got to be brutal.
Yeah, and I think that's why Bonotto lost his seat or lost his job somewhat, because I didn't think that he needed to, that trackside team needed changing up.
Yeah,
and I think that if Fred doesn't do that this year, it can't be. Surely we can't have another year where Ferrari kind of, have strategy issues again, because Charles got a long. I mean, Charles has extended his contract. I mean, surely he's got some performance. I know he's got some performance kind of things in that contract that says, if it's not this quick or if we can't compete in these races and stuff like that. But honestly, even Charles must be sat there.
Yeah.
Carlos doesn't really matter. He's got a year left, but Charles must be sitting there after re-signing and being like, "We can't have these strategy issues again. This is crazy."
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see, but I think they will, which is why they've gone fourth. Yeah.
Okay. So third, I've gone Ferrari. I think they've got enough to see off Aston and McLaren. Sorry. I think it will be close. Whoever is fourth. I'd like it to be McLaren, but I think it's going to be Aston. I think it will be close. No, wrong actually. I think if McLaren do a McLaren with what they did last year, I think they will be very, very, very close to Ferrari in third. But if Aston are where I think they're going to be in fourth, I think they'll be a bit further off.
Okay.
If that makes sense. So yeah, third, Ferrari. I think they've got what it takes. Drivers, I hope they've got their strategy and their circus sorted.
Yeah, I mean, we know the one lap pace qualifying is ultra every year, pretty much for Ferrari. Yeah, and if they're starting, even if the race pace isn't as strong, if they're starting that far out the grid, then
okay.
Third McLaren.
I like it.
Same as what we just said.
I like it.
Ferrari versus McLaren. Yeah.
I think it's going to be closer between McLaren and number 2. I won't ruin it. I'm sure you can't guess.
You gone Red Bull, have you?
But yeah, I think McLaren in third and second is going to be closer than McLaren in third and fourth.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Cool. I think these next ones will be fairly obvious, so I don't think we'll spend too much time on them. But second, sounds like we've all gone for Mercedes.
Yep.
I think they've got enough to see off whoever's in third, which I think could be Ferrari, or could be McLaren. But of course, not enough to reel in that Red Bull over a season. Maybe they might have a few races where they can have them.
But yeah, the one thing that's going to save them is having 2 drivers that can hopefully perform well if George decides to keep it out of the wall.
Yeah.
But Red Bull.
That was one race, was it? That was only one race.
Yeah.
That sticks with you.
Yeah, it does.
I think Red Bull. I mean, if Perez didn't turn up to any race last season, Max still would have won the constructors.
Yeah.
So,
that's sickening.
Yeah, but I do think Mercedes are going to be a lot closer with 2 solid drivers.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that Mercs. I mean, the qualifying. I think the official F1 kind of stats and whatnot that came out after testing showed that the Merc was kind of 4th qualifying pace and 1 lap pace, but second, and it was not that far off the Red Bull on race day, on heavy load, fuel load. So, yeah, certainly Mercedes. I mean, even if you look at how Toto Wolff talks about the car the last couple of years, calling it a shitbox, because I don't think it helps team morale. But and last year, finishing the constructors second with a car that they say what they talk about in such a way, because they are consistent, as you say. The one thing about Mercedes, even though they weren't they weren't ultra quick on Sundays, they were always 5th, 6th, 7th, and it was George Lewis, George. For the majority of this, now it didn't apply to every race, but consistency and a reasonably good Sunday car, because Mercedes really only last season came alive when it was the last 20 laps and lower fuel, and then suddenly they're like, it's a different car. If they have that throughout the race on Sundays, then I think definitely they're going to be up there in second, maybe not first, but second.
Okay.
It'll be interesting to see how we feel about our predictions after the first race.
Yeah.
We'll do a review.
Maybe we could do a little 5-minute review of how badly wrong we've got it. But hey, who knows?
Spot
on. Yeah, well, we can't all be right, can we? Well, I think we will be with our next one. So yeah, number one, of course, is Red Bull. I think the field will be closer than they were. I hope they'll be closer than they were last year, but they'll still have enough to pip the rest of the field. And I don't think there's much more needs to be said other than that.
Yeah, I mean, I thought before testing started, I'm pretty sure I read that Adrian Newey was asked about the car and everything, and he said that I'm pretty sure that I read his words or something along the lines of we had 2 options: one, go really outside the box, or 2, kind of work on the concept and upgrade last year's car. And he said that we went with the latter and upgrading the current car, and the risk is that other teams have really gone outside the box and look at things that we didn't. But then the RB20 turns up, and it's not an upgrade of last year's car.
Yeah.
It's an upgrade of Mercedes in some aspects, minus the side pods. So the side pods have been upgraded. Everyone's gone with a kind of like a smaller air intake or smaller gap in the side pods, but the cooling seems to be a rip of the Merc.
I feel like that's a real knife in the guts, and they're just twisting it. Just saying,
you wouldn't.
We can do. Look at us pulling off what you tried to pull off.
And I don't think there's a chance that Red Bull tested that in the wind tunnel and put it out. They decided they locked that in December, or actually it might have been August last year. And they wouldn't even done it unless they saw the data and it was solid. I don't think they wouldn't take a risk.
You say they've not gone with like Mercedes no side pod, but they have gone with less side pod, haven't they?
It is a different shape, and it certainly does look. I mean, the gap is a lot smaller.
It's like an undercut almost, isn't it, compared to.
It's different. It's just different.
It kind of look like an F35 or something at the front, or an F18 or something like that. In the first iteration of these side pods, isn't it? And now it's kind of a weird. I don't even know how to. It's like a little slit, isn't it? It's very strange.
Yeah. Okay. That's our predictions: drivers, constructors, and are most likely to be sacked. So
that was in depth.
Yeah, maybe a bit too much. I think we've lost the 3 people who've got listeners. So
that's us 3.
Yeah. So you're still with us. Congratulations. So I think we'll round it off with our hopes for 2024 season, and this is kind of thing of dreams. So it can be a long shot, right? And mine is for an Alonso win, any point during the season in an Aston. And then to announce a move to Mercedes.
I think the
dream
for next season. That's kind of like bucket list stuff to see him back in a championship winning car, just at the end of his career, to see what he can do.
Yeah.
Are you calling a Mercedes a championship winning car from next year?
Possibly. Look, if they close the gap, which I think
they do look better, but
I think they'll be considerably closer than it have been.
They don't need to like massively overtake the Red Bull as a car. They just need to be competitive, don't they? Because
Let me rephrase that: a championship contender.
Yeah.
I don't mean that it's going to be. I don't mean that Mercedes is going to be the outright championship winning car. I think next year it will have the potential to be a championship contender.
Yeah.
And I'd love to see Alonso win it. So that's my hope. Alonso win and then move to Mercedes.
I think Alonso would be good for George.
Yeah. So do I. So
it's kind of like another Hamilton figure, isn't it? Really.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a bit too early for him to take all of the responsibility for the performance of that team if they brought a younger driver in for the Mercedes driver program.
Yeah, I said to you, Jens, yesterday when we saw each other that during the press conference.
I watched that today.
Yeah,
I watched that today.
Yeah, so for reference, in the press conference, Lewis was asked by Sky F1 whether George is ready to take the lead of the team at Mercedes, which is a very easy question to answer if you turn the party line, which you maybe he doesn't care anymore because he's
No,
not there for much longer. But yeah, he paused for what felt like an eternity, but it was probably about 3 or 4, maybe 5 seconds, uncomfortably long. Pause, looked a little bit awkward, and said something along the lines of, I'm paraphrasing, but said something along the lines of, "Yeah, George, he's very technical and he's really close to Toto." I can't really say
Did
much
he
more
even
about
say
that.
during that little speech answer that he said, he even kind of was like, I don't really know how to answer that.
Yeah. That's exactly
That's a
what he said.
really easy question to answer. I mean,
yeah. So
I'm not that smart, and I think that's a really
yeah.
It's easy. It's easy to lie about. That's more difficult to tell the truth.
Yeah, so that the only reason I bring that up now, for fear of losing even more people, the only reason I bring that up now is I think George is not a superstar. George is a very, very competent driver, one of the fastest on the grid, but I don't think he's reached that point in his career that he can be a Hamilton, he can be an Alonso and walk into a team and really grip it.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
I mean, he's kind of lucky in the sense that he had multiple years with a difficult Williams that was outperforming, and I think that obviously we saw that when the first iteration of the rule change Mercedes came in, when it was bouncing all over the shop like a kangaroo, as to quote Toto Wolff, in that he was kind of used to dealing with a dodgy car where Lewis wasn't.
Yeah, but what's just hilarious about that is he waited and waited and waited for his opportunity in a championship winning car in a year that he gets delivered that. But yeah, never mind. Okay, that's my hope and dream. So what's yours, mate?
Yeah, certainly I wouldn't go against that. I think everyone, or most people, would want to see Alonso win.
Yeah.
Again, especially in an Aston.
Yeah.
In a British Racing Green Aston Martin.
Yeah.
Would be great. Did you go with one, or did you? Oh, you
I've
got one.
I've just
Okay.
got one, mate. Yeah,
so
there's no rules. There's no rules.
There's no rules, though.
You can say as many as you want.
You went for the double, to be fair. Alonso win
Yeah.
and also getting a move
Yeah,
to
okay.
Mercedes.
Oh, yeah.
So I'd say
Alright.
that's two.
Cool. Yeah, we'll call that double barrel, shall we?
Yeah. Okay,
Okay,
so that
fine.
means you're only allowed 2.
Yeah. So the main one for me is competition at the top.
Yeah.
This. If you look at my kind of view, whether it's F1, whether it's football, whether it's anything, what's the point in having elite sport if you don't have competition?
Yeah.
And I've spoke about in the past. I don't really have team allegiances per se, but I lean somewhat towards Red Bull, mainly for 2 reasons. One is the only factory I've ever been to, but the other reason was that I came into F1 or became more of a fan and getting more kind of interested in F1 during the Mercedes dominance, and my draw to Red Bull was the fact that they were doing actually something with the sport to bring it back into actually being entertaining. And although I have that feeling towards Red Bull, of course, last year was a shit show in terms of competition.
Yeah.
No, it's great from P2 backwards, kind of. But,
I was going to say,
if Max wasn't racing, it would be great.
It's quite fun to watch when you just do that. You just block out the first one, and then the rest of it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
competition at the top.
Yeah, from a wider standpoint, surely you need to have competition in at least some level of competition.
Yeah.
Don't get it wrong. I don't blame Red Bull for this. The other teams, should be out there, but ignoring the technicalities, it's elite sport. We should have competition.
On the track on a Sunday race day is where you want to see the competition. Obviously, you understand the the background competition of making a great car. The constructors, that is competitive. Red Bull have sort of worked hard over the last however many years to do what they're doing now. So that is part of the competitive car. But fans want to see the race. They want to see drivers race each other. So.
Yeah. Okay. What else you got written down in that novel?
Well, it's so what the other thing I wrote was Ferrari trackside improvement, and that comes into the same thing because the only car last season that really was as quick over one lap was the Ferrari. Charles was up there with Max, not far off. It wasn't as good on Sundays. However, it didn't even matter. I would argue it didn't matter if it was, because the Ferrari strategy was that poor.
I think you could categorise that as just less wasted potential.
Yeah.
Or maximised potential.
Yeah.
Because it was there last year and it's frustrating to see it kind of go to waste.
There might have been numerous tracks where Ferrari were battling Red Bull. We don't know, and we won't because
Exactly.
they don't know how to put a tyre on.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Have we lost 3 teams now?
Yeah. Okay, so
And
that's 7 left.
the last thing I wrote was Red Bull consistency, because if they are as strong as every driver in every team outside of Red Bull is making out, and they're talking. So I mean, the testing didn't show this, but one of the simulations apparently showed that the Red Bull was a second a lap quicker on race pace. I don't know who. I saw this quote from somewhere on social media. I didn't actually see like where they got it from. Hopefully, it's not the case. But if it is, we need there to be inconsistency from Red Bull. And Adrian Newey has said that's the one thing that they're not certain on is how consistent. Even through testing, they had inconsistent results with the coolant. So.
Yeah, I think if they are consistent, do you think it's too late to switch tack to like a women's volleyball podcast or something like that?
No, we just do. It won't be. We'll talk championship. It's like P2 to P20.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll start that women's volleyball podcast on my own. Then. This is my next
Well,
solo
the Euros
project.
is soon, so we can make another one for that.
Yeah, box to box.
Box to box.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Is that your 700 done?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No, I agree with all. I like it.
I'd say I've gone relatively simple, and I do hope this happens. Lando to win in Silverstone.
Oof.
I think a race win is, what we all want for Lando anyway.
Home win.
So I wanted to put a nice
Imagine.
little home win on there as well, yeah, because I think that's just going to taste even better.
Yeah.
I like that.
They do seem to. I mean, home races, drivers. I mean, Max doesn't really matter where he is, but drivers do seem to up their game on.
Do you remember?
Lewis has always done it.
Remember, it's always on clips on Sky F1 where Hamilton took, was it Perez and Leclerc?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Silverstone.
you were sat on that corner.
I was sat on that corner. That was unreal.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Full
was
goes
cheering
Hamilton.
on Verstappen in like 15th at that point, but
Yeah, Sky have rinsed and repeated that for
Yeah,
Raz,
oh,
but
But
then 2 corners later, he was overtaken by a wife.
irrelevant, unimportant. We don't care. Doesn't matter. It was a historical
good
time.
considering that was when Mercedes were terrible.
Yeah,
That was something
Yeah, it
you
was
hadn't
terrible.
seen
Yeah.
all season in front of
Yeah.
home fans. That was
yeah, that was cool.
I mean, you were at Silverstone that day, probably the only Max Verstappen fan in the entire grandstand.
Yeah, and they got beaten
People were
up,
looking at you when you were. saying the thing.
yeah, indeed.
We'll leave that
The
there.
only other one I've got down is Albon to do well, find his confidence, and get the second Red Bull seat.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, my predictions contradict each other because I have
Yeah.
also said Ricardo into that second
Hopes
seat.
and predictions can be different, I think.
Yeah,
So you, in your perfect future, Danny Rick doesn't get it. Albon gets it.
not necessarily my perfect. I feel like Ricardo's had his chance.
Yeah.
He
So has
chose.
Yeah,
Yeah, but has he?
No,
he's
no,
had his
that's
chance in a
unfair.
Red Bull seat and got taken out of it
But
because he wasn't confident.
yeah,
Ricardo has chosen to leave Red Bull,
yeah,
gone to Renault, chosen to leave them to McLaren, done terrible there.
got binned.
So
Yeah.
I just think Ricardo. I'd love to see him in a Red Bull, but
Yeah.
he's had his chance.
Yeah.
I'd like to see Albon get
I
up
don't
there.
make you wrong. I think Albon had about 13 minutes in a Red Bull, didn't he? So I think give him a season. I think he could
Yeah.
he could do well.
I do find it absolutely astounding that Danny Rick. I mean, Christian Horner talked about this kind of mini story about how Danny Rick got in the Red Bull to do the test at Silverstone.
Yeah.
And of course, we've now seen it a few months later on Drive to Survive. And after 5 months, get into what is supposedly one of the hardest. I mean, if you listen to Alex Albon on the High Performance podcast, he says it's so sharp on the front end. It's like driving with sensitivity up to max on a video game.
Yeah,
So considering Danny Rick to get into that Red Bull and do a lap, which after I don't know how many laps he'd done before he did the flying lap, but it would have been P2 at Silverstone behind Max,
yeah,
which blows my mind considering he had such. Well, actually, the car wasn't great at Renault. He couldn't drive the McLaren, and yet it gets in a Red Bull. I can't imagine that Red Bull feels anything like it. It's not like in maybe road cars, you get a BMW from 5 years ago to today. It probably feels quite similar. I can't imagine that's the same with the Red Bull, but it's astounding, absolutely astounding. It blows my mind.
Yeah.
I think it would be good to see him in a Red Bull just to see what he can do. If he's anywhere close to Verstappen, if he's in front of the Mercs, it'll be very interesting.
I don't think you as a racing driver alive that you put next to Max, and he matches him at the moment, personally.
I mean, if we look at why Danny Rick, I mean, actually we don't know, but let's just speculate as to why Danny Rick left Red Bull. It maybe was the favour to Max.
Yeah.
And if you look at him getting outperformed by Lando at McLaren, it got worse.
Yeah.
How much of that was the car versus whatever? So, whereas Renault, actually, his performance was actually not too bad. The car was pretty poor. So, is Danny Rick okay getting beaten every single week? Because being Max Verstappen's teammate, when you've already shown that getting beat every week, you don't thrive. You don't thrive under that. So,
I mean, maybe he didn't like it, but now he's been out of sport, out of a car that he enjoys driving. Maybe he can go back to Red Bull and just be a second driver.
I think what Ricciardo could bring back to that Red Bull team in his head psychologically is that he knows that the grass isn't greener now.
Yeah.
You know.
yeah.
I reckon he's happy. Obviously, I'd love a championship, but I reckon. Well, do we think he's happy to be a second driver?
I think if he says that he's happy to go back to Red Bull, I think yes, because
it'll be written in his contract.
Yeah,
I think if it's
quite right.
there's a chance here that he was never coming back to F1.
Yeah.
And somehow situations have arisen where he might be in the fastest car on the grid.
Yeah.
Well, for a year before the 26 rule changes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
A season and a half after he joins.
Yeah. I think
back into
if he gets in the middle of this season.
Yeah. I'm very happy to talk about Ricciardo, but I think we should clip it.
Yeah.
So I think that's us done. So.
Yeah.
I don't know how long that was.
Give it a couple seconds and then do a little outro.
Well, mate, we're still rolling, so I was going to do it anyway. But you just ruined my flow now. So.
Well, no, because you can't cut this bit out. You can't have. Shall we end it here in the podcast?
First episode you can, because
No, you can't.
we don't fucking clue what we're doing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, absolutely. And, we're just funny people.
yeah, some of us are.
Or if people don't think it's funny, we'll just blame you for ruining that part of the podcast.
Yeah.
Like
Why
I wrote at
not?
the start,
Yeah,
so.
it could be good. Keep it in. Keep it in.
All
I
right.
vote keep it in. But
Let's roll the outro.
yeah, okay. Outro. Do you want to clap again? But no, cool guys. Thank you for listening. So if you can subscribe, follow wherever you get your podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, whatever, really help us. Thank you for sticking with us, and we'll see you on the next one.